right,
Go.
let's go. All right, so just to jump right into it, as Jeff's been talking about, and great job, Jeff, with your classes, your trainings, what he teaches in the listing presentations, what he teaches in terms of putting business together. It's obvious that he's done it. He knows it inside and out, and that's where we all want to get our level too. And so I really thought about what are the biggest challenges, and we've already touched on them. It's lack of inventory, right? So let's just talk about that. Why is lack of inventory our biggest challenge right now? Why aren't sellers willing to list? I guess a better first question is it a good time to sell a home right now? And just, I mean, if you want to unmute or raise your hand or say, yes, it is a good time to sell. Why do you believe it is a good time to sell? Because constantly, and this is something that I always coach our agents on, if you're taking notes, one of the very first things you want to have is, why is now a good time to sell? And if you don't believe it as an agent, Mike Ferry just talked about this about 2 weeks ago, and you're going to hear me refer to some things that he brought up that are very important things. The lack of inventory problem right now is because of us as agents. We have to believe that now is a great time to sell. More importantly, we have to have the confidence that we can get the job done and help them with their next move. And that's the big challenge that we talk about is if they have a low interest rate, but as Kendall has mentioned, not everybody refied in the last 3 years, including myself. I wasn't able to refi in the last 3 years. I made a little bit of a job change, and by doing a little bit of that job change, did not have the ability to be able to qualify to refi. And there's others that were in that same boat. So not everybody who owns a home has a 2.5 or 3.5% interest rate to start with, okay? So the very first thing that we need to do, which is what Jeff has already talked about, is call our SOI. If you haven't already started doing this, come up with a list of everybody that you've sold a home to in the last year and a half. I would say at least last 10 years. But identify who those list of buyers who are homeowners right now. And you have to get on the phone and start speaking to them. That is I just want to start just straight out the gate of the very first thing you need to do is get on the phone and start engaging with your SOI. Now, you can bring up lines of equities. You can talk about that. But the very first thing that we coach on is forward. So you want to speak about family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. There's 3 C's that are involved in every presentation. The very first thing you have to do is connect, then you create value, and then you close in every conversation that you have. So whether you're prospecting on the phone with a client, you have to remember to connect with them first, and that's going to be based on forward. How's the family doing? How's Johnny doing? I see he's playing baseball. Looks great, right? And you start connecting with them, start speaking to them about what's going on, and then you're going to find out about what Kendall just said earlier about life events. So-and-so just passed away. So-and-so's getting married. These are the things that are triggering what Mike Ferry referred to. Roughly, we're on pace for about 4.5 million transactions. At the peak of the market, when transactions were booming after COVID, was about 6.5 million. And if you're not taking notes, you need to know these numbers. Because when we speak with sellers, we have to be able to convince them. That is our job. That's what makes us good at what we do, is being able to influence these sellers that they need to get off of the idea of selling and take action. Everybody's at a point A and they need to get to a point B. We have to identify where they're at and where do they need to get to. And the only way we do that is through discovery. So there's these key points and things that we teach here within this organization that as you become the person who is good at connecting with people, and good at asking great questions and understanding and hearing their story and listening, you're going to find the nuggets and the opportunities, but only if you develop a consistent schedule that's going to get you these results, okay? So things that you need to focus on and develop is a listing process. You should have a schedule, and that's my challenge to each and every one of you for the next 90 days. Be focused on taking listings. Listings are coming. Mike Ferry said that he sees this summer, the next 3 months, as being the busiest months that we're going to see this year. And if you think about it, we missed January, February, March, which cyclically is typically the height of the selling season. We missed that because buyers were still getting used to the interest rate increase. Well, now it's been stable for over 90 days, as Tamir's talked about. Being that it's stabilized, not that buyers love the rates at where they're at, but we're more accustomed to it. So now if you can say, hey, I can get you a rate at like 5.9, you need to pull the trigger now. We're used to 6.5%. Now we can speak with urgency that now you need to take advantage of that now. Okay. But as we get into what that hurdle is and understanding what it takes to try to move somebody from point A to point B, you have to understand what's going on in their head. The only way that you're going to do that is by developing a process where you're asking questions and getting that information. So let's start from the beginning of, we call our SOI. We reach out to our SOI. I just did this yesterday. We went on Broker Caravan. Broker Caravan in Camarillo here. Traditionally, it's been very slow. We've seen about 2 homes on the market each week. We all show up, every brokerage within Camarillo, 2 active properties that are new listings. That's what we've been seeing. This Thursday, there were 9, 3 pages, almost, quadrupled in terms of what we've been seeing historically. Again, sellers are now starting to take action. Word's starting to get out. And you have to have these testimonials, call them sound bites, that when you are speaking with a seller who's on the fence, whether you're prospecting or convincing them at the listing presentation that they need to take action now, you have to share with them something that's going to motivate them. Many sellers out there right now think they missed the boat. They think they missed the best time to sell and max out on their ability to profit and create a multiple offer situation. Took a listing 2 weeks ago. Was on the market for 3 days, listed at 740,000, a little over 2,000 square feet in North Oxnard. In 3 days, we had 40 showings. We got 20 offers in 5 days. We listed the home. On Wednesday was the first showing. These owners lived in the property. I told them, you just need to be out from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. because we did what we were supposed to do. And number one, they followed my advice because they've been on the fence for about 3 years in terms of whether they should sell. Now, because I do my job and I stay in contact with my SOI and I follow up and I touch them on a quarterly basis, when the job opportunity came up, now they called me up and said, you've been talking to me for the last 3 years. I wouldn't work with anybody else other than you. So we have to develop that process of that initial phone call. We have to develop a system of follow-up. Okay. We have to have the ability to set the appointment. And then once we set the appointment and we meet with them face to face, we have to do something before that appointment. What is it for anybody who knows this process? And I know we got quite a few Mike Ferry people on here, but even outside of Mike Ferry, what do you do once you set that listing appointment for Friday at 4 o'clock? What's the key thing to do? I know they know it in this room. Anybody want to unmute?
Pre-qualify.
Pre-qualify. Tell me a little bit more about that. What do you mean? Send them to a loan officer?
Well, if it's a buyer for a listing, you would basically call up and ask pre-qualify questions.
Great. For a buyer, for a seller, for a listing appointment. When you say pre-qualify, tell us a little bit more. What do you mean by that, Nagme?
So we basically, ask questions about their motivation to sell, their timing to sell, how much. We try to figure out how much equity they have in the property by finding out the mortgage they owe. And also just kind of do a, temperature gauge as far as if they are going to list with us.
Absolutely. So you're pre-qualifying, and what you're trying to do is you're trying to get the answers to the test before you take the presentation. Would you rather take an open book test where you have all the answers there and you can look at your answers and take the test, or would you rather go into it blind? But what's interesting is how many times do we go into that listing presentation assuming they're going to hit us on price and commission, and we're worried that that's how we're going to get it by a decision based on price and commission. We need to take the time. So what I would do is similar, and Nagme, you hit it right on the head. You set up, it's pre-qualification, but it's discovery before you meet them face to face. So the day before your presentation on Friday, you're going to call them up and say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, just confirming that we're good for tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Yes, we are. Great. Okay, well, before we get together, because I want to make the most out of our meeting tomorrow, I have a few questions for you. Do you got a few minutes for that? Yes, I do. Well, wonderful. And then I'm going to start off similar to what Nagme said and say, well, what do you ultimately want to accomplish when we get together tomorrow? Or you can ask it and rephrase it and say, what's happened in your life, right? Like what Kendall was talking about. What has happened in your life recently that we are getting together tomorrow and discussing the opportunity of selling your home, right? You need to discover and find out what's going on in their head and let them talk. Then from there, you want to ask, okay, what kind of price do you have in mind? And we're going to go through what's called a pre-qualification script. But our goal isn't to convince them on the phone. We've already set the appointment. Our goal here is to discover. And when the objections come up, because you can ask them, are there any other questions that you have before we get together tomorrow? And they say, yes, what are you going to charge commission? Do we talk about commission on that conversation?
No.
No. What do we say, Nagme?
So we basically, there are different ways of objection handling, I guess. But
right.
I would probably say that that's a great question, and I will make sure that would be one of the first things that we discuss when we meet together, and that commissions are negotiable. So,
Perfect.
but also there's the script where you say commission is not going to be the reason why we're not going to be, not be working together.
Right. That's perfect. So Nagme had a few different, they're called objection handlers. And just remember objections. Objections are a client's hesitation in committing and moving forward. And typically it's an unanswered question that they have in their head. So if you give an amazing presentation and you go through the process in the way that we teach the listing presentation, the best objection handler is a great presentation. But when somebody hits you with commission and you try to have that conversation on the phone on commission, you're setting yourself up for disaster. And the reason why I say I've done it, I've said it in the past because it was a referral from a past person. And I said, yeah, you know what? You're a referral. I'll do it for 5%. So guess what they said at the end of the presentation after it went about as good as it could go? Guess what came up? Well, the only hesitation I have in working with you is that I'm sure if I talk to two other people, somebody will do it for 4 or 4.5%. And I just smiled at him. I said, you're right. Oh, I got somebody on my phone that'll do it for 3.5% for you. I said, but let me ask you this question. Is this the most important investment that you currently have today? He said, yes, it is. So that's great. So you walking away with as much money as possible is very important to you. That's correct. Well, do you believe that I can help you make the most for the sale of your home? You're really good at what you do. Okay. So if that's the case, then let's get started. And I'm going to leave the paperwork here with you today. You can talk to these other agents, but obviously I haven't done my job. So now what I'm doing is called isolating the objection. So tell me, other than the commission, is there anything else that would prevent us from working together? And this is something that you're going to do. It's called the ultimate close. And when you understand and can discover this, one, you got to ask for the business. But two, you have to find out what is their hesitation in working with you. So you have to isolate the objection. And if they say, no, there's nothing else, you're great. They're not only selling themselves on you, you're identifying this is the one hurdle we have to overcome. So then I'll share stories, and I'll also just kind of bring it down to they call it, reduce it to the ridiculous. So your concern is 0.5%. Let's talk about that a little bit, okay? Because we need to offer at least 2.5% to the selling office side. Well, they're like, well, what if I can do it for 2%? So at $450,000, 0.5%, you're looking to save $2,500. Can I share with you why that concerns me? Yeah, why does that concern you? Because right now, agents are doing less sales than they've done historically. And they've been working really hard with this buyer, and they know how hard it is to get that offer accepted. And if you are only offering 2% at your property, and up the street they're offering 2.5%, where do you think that agent is going to try harder to sell, put that buyer? So you are you're narrowing your net in terms of what you can offer and expose in your property, which is going to hurt you and cost you tens of thousands of dollars. Do you see what I'm saying here? So we have to be able to articulate and explain these things so that they understand that they're actually hurting themselves. The other thing I do is I separate the issues. What I mean by that is you have to be able to differentiate between signing a listing agreement and ultimately when offers come in hand. Because as we're talking, think about this at the listing presentation. When we're talking at the presentation, we're having this conversation, they're being promised they can get X price for X commission, and they're looking at the commission and seeing, well, I don't want to pay $45,000 in commission. This is crazy. I can do this on my own, or I can do it for somebody who can save some money. Ultimately, That net sheet is just an estimate. Nothing means anything until offers come in hand. And that's what I share with them. So I separate and I reduce the risk and their fear of signing and committing here, because ultimately it's not about what we sign here. It's about the offers that you get in hand. Okay. So I know I've kind of jumped around a little bit with it, but I want to get back to the process piece of it. And thank you, Nagme, for offering that, because you have to understand the initial part is the prospecting. So you want to create this schedule that you look at, and prospecting is typically best done at any time that you're willing to do it. But if you can, your energy is going to be the highest in the morning. Okay. So we got to prospect. We got to set the appointment. We have to be prepared for the presentation. Okay. There was a question.
You know what? When I got up this morning, my whole computer, Debbie, my whole computer looks different than it's ever looked before.
Okay.
Yes. Don't you just hate that when that happens?
Can we mute that person, please? I don't know if we can do it. Okay. So getting back onto it. We need to talk about, preparing for the presentation. So in becoming the market expert, and these are some of the key things that I've picked up just over the recent years. How do you prepare for that presentation to show that you truly are the market expert? Okay, so one of the things I use is called Flex Market Summary Report. But in terms of knowing your numbers, these numbers, I swear to you, have been the game changer in my presentation, especially if you're talking to an analytical. But even more importantly, you have to remember that we have to convince them that now is the best time to sell. So getting back to the original question, why is now the best time to sell? It's because you have the least amount of competition. You have the opportunity right now. We didn't miss the boat last January, February, March when the rates were low, when homes were going 100, 150 over. I just shared with you a recent experience of a home that hit the market that the sellers were hoping to get 760. We ended up at 791, all cash. We had all cash offers going $50,000 over asking. We priced it intelligently at 740. And these clients put all their faith in me because I showed them the numbers. So one of the things, if I were preparing for a listing here in Camarillo, which I did just about a week ago, what I would be looking at is how many active homes are on the market. So an active in Camarillo today is 51 active properties, 51 total. If you look at the chart and on that Flex Market Summary Report, it will show the height of the market in terms of active listings was at about 160 last year. So from 160, we are now at 51. So when we talk about the market, we want to say where the market's at today, where it was, and where it's heading, right? So what's the next phase of what's going to come up? You're going to see more inventory come up. As you have more inventory, it's more competition. It takes away that opportunity. So you have to express in the urgency that they have to beat their neighbors to the punch and get their home listed first. As they wait, that potentially will cost them tens of thousands of dollars. And in some situations, $50,000 to $100,000. Right now, because inventory is so slim in Camarillo specifically, that these properties that are going, that comps are showing at 775, and this is what you want to do in your research before the presentation. There's not very many actives. Call every single one of the active listings that is around your price point. So if I'm planning to list a home at 850, I'm going to call anything between 8 and 900,000. Again, comps for 1370 square feet were roughly at 775. Zillow had it at 778. I spoke to two agents. One agent who has hers listed 1,400 square feet at 850, saying the phone's ringing off the hook. We already have 7 offers in hand at 850. Comps are at 775. So if I would have went in based off of comps without making these phone calls, I would have underpriced this property by about $50,000 to $75,000. Only because I made the phone call to the other agents and found that information out and asked those questions was I properly prepared. The other thing that you want to call are the ones that are under contract and are pending. Okay, those are the ones that you can ask them what the story was and find out, okay, did you get way over asking price? What's the case? You have to get this information beforehand. So as again, I talked about the numbers active. Sorry, it's on this board here. We had 51 active in Camarillo, 18 pending, 12 sold, and 11 new listings. Just on Thursday, there were 9 new listings that hit. There were only 11 last month. 9 came in on Thursday. Okay, it's coming. So we need to get to our clients first. We need to speak to them first, and we need to make sure that we're reaching out to them and setting the appointment And from setting the appointment, it could just be a casual conversation. You could be meeting with them for coffee. Doesn't have to be an official listing presentation. But your goal is to eventually get face-to-face in their home and talk to them about their home and talk to them about their plan, whether they're ready now or in the future. It is very important that you speak to them so that they know what's going on in the marketplace. Because again, these same people, if you understand the cycle of the market, and this is again is as you come up with how persuasive you can be in convincing somebody to take action now. Does anybody know when the bottom of the market was? What year was the bottom of the market? I'm hearing 08 here in the room.
2011.
2011. Nagme knows the answer. She's heard this multiple times. So what do I say after this, Nagme? 2011 was the bottom of the market. Then what do we say in terms of the different phases? How many years of growth? How many years of decline?
Well, it's been 10 to 12 years, the last few decades.
Since the bottom.
Right.
So the bottom of the market was in 2011. Real estate is cyclical, okay? One of the sayings that I've heard from an agent who's second generation is, it never goes as low as the last low, but it's always higher than the last high. It looks more of this type of motion cyclically. But you got roughly 5 to 7 years of growth on average, 5 to 7 years of decline. Well, 2011 was the bottom of the market, and I heard Tamir talk about this when we were at his house, because I bought also around the same time. 2017 is when I bought my second property in Camarillo. I thought I was buying at the peak of the market. 2011 was the bottom. 5 to 7 years of growth, that's about 2018. What happened in 2018? Does anybody remember? It actually started slowing down. We started seeing it longer days on market. That's why your market summary report is so important. What's your average days on market? Well, average days on market in the hot part of the market was like 2 to 4 days. And only us as agents were stretching it to 7 to make sure that we got it fully exposed, right? So, but a home hit and it was gone. That's what's happening right now, okay? But what you'll see as average days on market right now is 40 days. What you'll see for the median is about 14 days. And the median is a truer indicator of what the average is. So if you're not sure if your home is overpriced and your homes have been on the market in this market for more than 14 days, you're overpriced. There's no reason why you don't have multiple offers. So you have to have that honest conversation with your client and let them know that we are not getting the activity that we want. We're going to be chasing this market down. So we need to make that correction now. So that's your window. And we have to future pace our clients. If they want to take a high price, take the listing. Inventory is all-time low. Take that high price listing.
My God, it's already 40 minutes. The class is going to be over by the time I'm ready.
Katie, thank you. All right, sorry about that. I'll try to wrap it up in about 5 minutes here, okay? You have to future pace them. They have to understand what's happening, and it's called intelligent pricing and pricing strategy. So I'll just close with that piece of it because that's important to know if you haven't heard it yet. If you price the home intelligently, you will get the results that we promise you. But the only way we know is until it's put on the market. Once it's on the market, and we can tell based on comps, you can't undersell a home as long as you fully expose the property. The only way you can undersell the property is if you sell it before it actually hits the market. That's the only way you can undersell it. If you put it on the market at a low price, what's going to happen? Multiple offers. It's all going to come in. The action's there. The value, the desirability is there. So we got to get the home on. Now, if we have no showings, no offers in that first week, and we just listed a new property, you're over by about 7 to 10%. Okay? Remember that. 7 to 10% off price. If you have some showings, let's say 3 to 5 showings in that week, but it's only been on the market for a week, and you got 3 to 5 showings, no offers, you're still off by probably 3 to 5%. Okay? Now, if you have lots of showings and no offers, you're off by about 3%. If you get it to the sweet spot, and this is what I always refer it to, you have to get that price to the sweet spot. The activity will pick up. And when the activity picks up, they write because now they know, now you've flipped it on that buyer. Because that buyer knows when those agents and that buyer walks in that this is a great value for that home, and we got to put our best foot forward. And we know this is going to turn into a multiple offer situation. So make sure that you're having that conversation in your listing presentation. Make sure you're doing your research and your discovery beforehand. Practice, have the confidence and the belief that you can do this, because those are the two fundamental things that you have to have walking into every presentation. It will make you stronger with commissions and negotiating commissions, but you have to know your value. You got to believe you're the best person for the job and that you can get the job done. So let's just, my biggest challenge, just in wrapping this up, unless there's any questions, my biggest challenge to all of you is to create a schedule this week. Set a goal for how many listings you're going to take in the next 90 days. Start designing a schedule that is focused around taking listings. And it has to do with conversations. It has to do with your preparation for those listing presentations. Your goal should be 1 appointment a day. You have not done your job unless you've set 1 appointment a day. If you set 5 appointments for that week, and you can do it all on a Monday, it's called front loading. Set all your appointments on that Monday, and you've set your 5 appointments for the week, you're good. Now, half of those are going to cancel or reschedule. That's normal. And the further out you go from 48 hours from setting that appointment, the less likely they're going to keep their appointment. So try to set it within the next couple days. But you should have a written weekly calendar that you can see. And your appointment slots in the afternoon are 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock, and 7 o'clock on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Monday, Wednesday, Friday should be 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and 5 o'clock. And you give yourself a little bit of space. And every one of those time slots, you're setting an appointment. And if you set that appointment, you're going to that appointment, you're going to be prepared, you're going to pre-qualify it, and you're going to come and bring it. And you're going to take that listing. And if you're not going to take that listing right then and there, you're going to be very persuasive and you're going to follow up with them. But the more that you're having these appointments and these meetings, the more listings that you're going to take. If you don't have an appointment at those time slots, you're doing more prospecting or you're doing your admin work for the escrows and the transactions that you have. Okay. But just want to finish with that. Thank you all for your time. I hope to be doing a little bit more in the future with all of us. So as we do them in the office, we have our office meeting on Wednesday. We typically do them on Tuesdays in here. I'm going to talk. I'm going to be upfront. I'm not, I haven't been successful with teams. Doesn't mean it can't work, but I got to figure out how to set the appointments up and record them. So as I get those going, we do them every Tuesday here from 9 to about 10:30. You're all welcome to be in it. We have these honest conversations of what's working in the market today, and it works. And it teaches the agents, and we all share ideas, and we share what's working and what's not working. And this is one of the best things we can do as an organization is being able to share these ideas. So just thank you, Jeff, for your time. Thank you all for listening. And I hope there's a couple things you can apply, and let's take those listings.
So first off, I think everybody needs to give you kudos, because I would rather drive to Vegas and sit in a gross conference room with a couple thousand other people and listen to you than I would almost anybody else after listening to that. In fact, I already texted Orhan. I'm like, Brandon's a badass. So you've got this nailed. I'm looking forward to meeting you in person and working more with you. Now, I'm going to add a couple things, and Romeo, get ready to be on deck, buddy. But couple things. First off, I was scrolling through anybody that had their cameras on, which most of you turned them off. That's fine. I get it. I turned mine off too. That's because I was walking and pacing in the room while he was speaking, listening, which is how I listen. Guys, make sure you mute yourself if you're not speaking. But when he tells you days of the week and times that you're going to go do appointments, a lot of you go, well, no, the way I work is that when they say, like, be there, like, I'm just there. And I cancel everything and I walk away from everything I do and I just, like, run out. I want you to think about what we tell you. You are a real estate sales professional. By the way, keyword sales, next keyword professional. If you need to have surgery, if you need to have your taxes done, if you need to have your car repainted, if you need, I don't know, whatever services we use, you work on that person's timeline. You guys get in trouble and I need to get you involved with a lawyer, or any of our brokers need to get involved with that. You work on their timeline. When they send you a text or an email back saying, hey, we'll go over this case, and we're going to do it at 3 o'clock on Tuesday,